This is Father Chris, and I'm privileged to be able to bring to you in our year of saints two very interesting saints. They couldn't be more interesting. This is the colloquially called the Fatima children. As you know, let me refresh your memory. As you know, in May of 1917, an amazing occurrence appeared in the little town of Fatima in Portugal. Three shepherd children received an apparition from the Blessed Mother on that May 13th, and it forever changed their lives and the lives of the church. The three kids were Lucia Santos, Francisco Marto, and Jacinta Marto. Francisco and Jacinta were brother and sister. Lucia was their first cousin. And the three children were entrusted with the care of sheep. They were young, Lucia 11, Francisco 9, and Jacinta 7 at the time of the apparition. And they were entrusted with the care of the sheep, you know, in their family in the small fields around their house. And as they were going about their business that day, Mary appeared to them. Now, I have to preface this by saying, previously, before this, there had been 3 apparitions to them of an angel who declared himself the angel of peace or the angel of Portugal. And he shared with them to be prepared. And he taught them the prayer, which many of you know is the Fatima prayer. He also gave to them the Eucharist, administered Eucharist to them, and then prepared them for what would come in May with the apparition of the Blessed Virgin. You're familiar with Fatima and its after effects, but I'd like to share with you kind of the lives of these 2 young children. A few years ago, I was on a pilgrimage to Spain and Portugal and went to the shrine at Fatima. And there's a new church and an old church. The old shrine church that was originally built, and then the new one that's replaced it. But the shrine church is a very beautiful, kind of smallish church, and in it are, over to the side, are these 2 little slabs, 2 little places where these 2 children are buried. Jacinta and Francisco were, as I said, brother and sister. And it's said that after the apparition, they developed an adult maturity and an adult spirituality, which is very, very fascinating to see how that apparition affected them. They became apostles, in a sense, of the message of Fatima, along with their cousin Lucia. But they also were very devout in their faith, and they really ministered to those around them. It's said that they both embodied qualities that are part of the message of Fatima. Francisco became a great prayer. Mary had told him that he would probably spend time in purgatory, and he needed to pray a lot of rosaries in his lifetime. And Francisco took this very seriously. He would pray at length with the rosary. He would skip school to go to the church to pray in front of the tabernacle, and it'd get him in trouble. But that prayer, which is a call of the apparition of Fatima, Mary's call to us there, was that we should be constant prayers. Jacinta's life was a little more complex. Jacinta was very young, 7 years old at the time of the apparition. She developed a great sense of prayer for those who were lost. And Mary had said to pray especially for conversion of hearts, not just the conversion of Russia, but also conversion of hearts, and for those especially who had fallen from the faith. Jacinta took this very seriously, and for the rest of her life devoted herself to penitential practices and prayers which were in support of those who had fallen from the faith. So we see those 2 aspects of the Fatima call of the Blessed Mother being lived out in the lives of these 2 young children. Now, Lucia, Francisco, and Jacinta were also given a vision of heaven, and they longed to go to heaven. They asked Mary, they said, "When can we go to heaven? Can we go soon?" And Mary told the brother and sister that they would go soon. Their lives would not be long on this earth, but that Lucia would remain to be a spokesman and to be a teacher of the message of Fatima. And Lucia died at the age of 97. So Mary's prophecy to her was correct. She lived a very long life. But Jacinta and Francisco both became very ill. And Jacinta came down with something like tuberculosis, although it wasn't really tuberculosis. Francisco developed very severe pneumonia. There's been speculation that they may have been affected by the Spanish flu, which was running around at that time. Francisco passed away on April 4th, 1919. He was 10 years old. And Jacinta ended up being sent to a hospital in Lisbon where she lived out her short life. And Jacinta suffered great pains in her illness. She passed away February 20th, 1920, at the age of 9. So we think of these two young children, and I think the message is not so much that they were privileged to receive this visit from the Blessed Mother. What do they teach us? In the year 2007, when they were canonized, the Pope said that their virtues came through, their heroic virtues, their saintly virtues, despite their age. And I believe, and I haven't researched this completely, but I believe it was said at that time, Jacinta is the youngest person ever canonized on her own merits. She wasn't a martyr. There were children martyrs in the early days of the church, but Jacinta was not a martyr. She died and lived her life with great spiritual virtues and depths, and it was because of that, along with her brother, that they were canonized. Not because they were visionaries, but because of who they were and how they lived their lives and lived their faith and taught and were an inspiration to others. They are great inspirations to us, and I think it shows to us, and I think one thing I was contemplating was the fact that sometimes we tend to either overlook or not really call to mind the spirituality of children. And Jesus very clearly said that, let the children come to me, for they know the kingdom of God. And children are people of hope, people of trust, people of joy, and they show that to us. And I think Jacinta and Francisco maybe speak for all of those generations of children that in their childlike virtues display the holiness of God portrayed to the world. And also, that they can teach and that they can guide even us adults. So I think that's what I take away from their witness and their faith. Their cousin Lucia has been declared a servant of God, the first step toward canonization, and will probably join them. She is also buried in the chapel, or in the shrine church at Fatima, but she will probably join them in canonization as well. So every so often when you see that picture of the very young boy and the very young girl, just think, God works with all of us, and his ministry and that flows from his grace that is found in all of us, even in children. So all of you kids out there, remember, this could be you.